Our president is very busy prosecuting his enemies. His goon squad today indicted his own former national security advisor, John Bolton. He is just brazenly lying about the economy and grocery prices. But he did have a chat with Vlad Putin today, which we know because...
I mean, he's an invasive species.
For California.
For the country, for the world. He's a wrecking ball, not just the symbolism and substance of the East Wing. He's wrecking alliances, truth, trust, tradition, institution.
Man, Trump really thought he could just walk into 2025 without a scratch. That's adorable. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel's out here loading up jokes like a chef on way too much caffeine. And Gavin Newsom's shaking his head so hard, it's basically cardio at this point. You can just feel the chaos building, egos starting to crack, and somehow Trump's still out there acting like this was all part of his genius plan. But trust me, whatever's coming next, this isn't your usual political drama. This is a full-on meltdown in motion, and you seriously don't want to look away.
Which we know because while he was on the phone with Putin, he posted, "I am speaking to President Putin now." The conversation is ongoing, a lengthy one, and I will report the contents, as will President Putin at its conclusion. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Never mind our attention to this matter. How about you paying attention to this matter? Why are you posting about a phone call?
It is about the United States of America. He doesn't believe in that. He believes in the red states. He's going after, it's a war. He's a wartime president. He's the head of a war party. War on women, war on voting rights, war on Hispanics, a war on this state.
All right, here we go again. Trump, somehow still the headline-grabbing, eyebrow-raising spectacle none of us can escape, is back in the spotlight. Just when you thought the circus was finally packing up and leaving town, Jimmy Kimmel and Gavin Newsom show up like uninvited guests, each bringing their own brand of chaos and comedy to the mix. It's wild, it's messy, and honestly, it's exactly the kind of show you can't stop watching.
Once in a while, when he needs a good laugh, Putin schedules a phone call with Trump, and Putin is Bart Simpson and Trump is his Mo. Trump announced that he is going to meet with Putin in Budapest at a date to be determined because only he can end a war.
I don't think any president's ever ended a war, frankly. One war, I did 8 of them, Maria, right? And but I don't know, did Bush ever end? Do you think Biden ended a war? Biden started wars because he was stupid. But do you think Biden ended any wars? No, I don't know of anybody that ended wars. I ended 8 of them.
Yeah. No president, nobody has ever ended a war other than him. All the other wars ended mysteriously by themselves. But he ended 8 of them.
The whole thing turned into a full-blown roast, like fireworks going off in the middle of a hurricane. And there's Trump right in the center, flailing around, trying to figure out whether he's stuck in a comedy skit or caught up in a political earthquake.
History. I mean, this is serious. This guy's trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. That's what he's going to try to say tomorrow in Alaska, that he's the big guy trying to find peace, really? When he's bringing war to the American people? He put military in the streets, not of Baghdad. He didn't send the military in his first administration anywhere in the world. He sent the United States Marines into the United States of America in one of the bluest cities in this country, in Los Angeles, one of the great cities, American cities. That's what Donald Trump did. He is a wartime president.
Jimmy Kimmel kicked things off because, of course, who better to start than the guy who can take the most ridiculous stuff in the world and somehow make it even more ridiculous. And man, he did not hold back. It was like watching someone take a chainsaw to a pile of fake gold bricks Trump's been guarding in his imaginary vault. Brutal, hilarious, and kind of impossible to look away from.
Trump gets a visit from Zelensky at the White House. They're going to see if they can figure out this thing with Bad Bunny, and then after that, we'll work on Ukraine. And most importantly, he still has his eye on the ballroom. Trump really wants a ballroom in the White House. Said the reason we don't have one already is because we've never had a real estate person as president, but now we have Blob Vila running the show, and we're gonna have one. Last night, Trump hosted a fundraising dinner for his big, beautiful $200 million wedding venue. The fact that the government is shut down because Republicans don't want to spend money on health care makes no difference to him, I guess. All the top people from Google, Apple, Amazon, you name it, lined up to eat beef stroganoff and kiss his ass, just as our...
The target wasn't just Trump's policies or his tweets, which, let's be honest, could fill an entire Netflix series on their own. It was everything about him. The hair, the gestures, the way he introduces himself to the world like he's auditioning for a superhero movie, except the villain somehow stole the script. Every bit Jimmy Kimmel dropped felt like a masterclass in controlled chaos. It wasn't just funny. It was that kind of humor that makes you wince and laugh at the same time because Deep down, you know it's painfully true. But Jimmy didn't stop at just cracking jokes. He went in deep, peeling back the absurdity layer by layer, like pulling apart an onion made of dollar bills and pure ego. You could almost see the thought bubbles popping over Trump's head, confusion, disbelief, like someone just told him his stable genius moment had officially turned into a comedy special. Every punchline hit with surgical precision. But this wasn't some quick hit and run. It was a full-on tactical strike, carefully planned to leave Trump spinning in a storm of irony and denial. And somewhere between the laughter and the shock, everyone watching realized one thing: Jimmy was absolutely ruthless, and we loved every second of it.
If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves, but they do not stop there. This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. Take time, reflect on this perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or constitution.
And just when you thought the internet couldn't handle anymore, Gavin Newsom stepped in, cool, sharp, and armed with that mix of political insight and quiet disdain that makes you want to grab popcorn and take notes. Subtlety isn't really his thing, and honestly, he didn't even bother pretending. He went at Trump like someone calmly dismantling a broken robot, one illogical move at a time. There's this special kind of satisfaction in watching a politician who actually understands systems, policies, and consequences completely take apart someone whose grip on reality is, well, pretty flexible. Newsom's takedown felt like watching a surgeon perform delicate work on a blow-up doll pretending to be human. Painful, hilarious, and fascinating all at once. He peeled away the layers of inconsistency, hypocrisy, and pure spectacle until there was nothing left but an existential pileup in the middle of it all. And the best part? The contrast. Jimmy came in swinging comedy like a flamethrower, while Newsom used scrutiny like a scalpel. Two totally different approaches that somehow met in the same place. Absolute chaos. By the end, Trump wasn't just a political figure anymore. He'd turned into a cautionary tale and a punchline at the same time. From former president to reality TV relic, floundering in this weird political purgatory, he just kind of flopped there while these two masterminds ran their own separate operations of exposure and ridicule. And honestly, it was mesmerizing to watch.
The Daily Beast, Donald Trump's inner circle is becoming increasingly fearful of the impact what he sees on Fox News is having on his decision-making. Trump officials became concerned when Trump asked if he could get a reverse mortgage on the White House in one of those Terry Bradshaw walk-in tubs. A few weeks ago, there were reports that the reason Trump wanted to send the National Guard into Portland is because he saw Fox footage of unrest from 2020, and he thought it was happening in real time. And he still might think that's happening in real time.
You couldn't help but admire the balance between the two. Humor and intellect working together to create this perfect storm of humiliation. Jimmy went all in on exaggeration, absurdity, and pure spectacle. He leaned into Trump's signature moves, the over-the-top gestures, the dramatic declarations that sound like they came straight out of a fantasy novel, and that unmatched ability to twist any situation into something self-serving. He broke it all down with precision, pushing the jokes just far enough to make everyone laugh uncontrollably, but never so far that the truth behind them disappeared. It's a tricky balance, like walking a spaghetti tightrope over a pit of lava, and Jimmy absolutely nailed it. Watching it unfold, you could see Trump's bravado turn into comedic gold, a living reminder of why satire even exists, to make sure we don't take the ridiculous too seriously, while secretly knowing the ridiculous often has more power than reality itself. Meanwhile, Newsom wasn't chasing laughs. He was going for exposure. He picked apart Trump's stories, his contradictions, his broken promises, and the bizarre logic that somehow passed as leadership. It was like watching someone open up a complex machine only to find half the gears made of bubblegum and glitter. Every move Newsom made was deliberate. Every point carefully aimed to spotlight the absurdity of a man who lives for theatrics, but completely falls apart when the spotlight turns to substance.
From day one, he's weakness masquerading as strength. He's increasingly acting deranged, unhinged. I mean, you saw that 39-minute curious excavate of just narcissism at another level, where people had to sort of stare at dear leader as he was dancing or zoning out. I mean, this is a profound and remarkable moment, and I think he's not meeting that moment. I think he's increasingly concerned about his own candidacy himself, and he's going back to these safe places. I think it was a seven or 8th grader that called me new scum. Now it's a 78-year-old. Maybe you could describe him also as a...
Newsom's approach was the kind that makes your jaw drop for a second and then twist into this half smile because it's honestly rare to see. Someone use authority with that much sharpness and clarity in a world drowning in noise and ego. The crazy part was how perfectly his precision synced up with Jimmy's chaos, not on purpose, but almost poetically. And of course, Trump didn't take it well. He reacted exactly the way you'd expect: confused, defensive, overly dramatic, basically handing more material to the same people roasting him. It turned into this self-feeding loop of absurdity: chaos creating entertainment, entertainment creating more chaos. The whole spectacle was hypnotic, like watching the universe remind us that sometimes comedy writes itself, and sometimes the best kind of exposure comes from just letting someone's contradictions do all the talking. But the real twist here wasn't just about laughs or scoring political points. It was about perspective. Jimmy reminded everyone why people like Trump exist as both fascination and warning, while Newsom reminded us why accountability still matters, even when the person you're holding to it seems untouchable, larger than life, or completely immune to criticism. And honestly, Trump's reactions, or his total inability to handle them, just made the whole thing even better. There's something oddly satisfying about watching someone so used to controlling the story suddenly stuck on the other side, forced to deal with being the punchline and the example all at once.
Said that when the governor of Oregon informed them there was no security threat in her state, he said, well, wait a minute, am I watching things on television that are different from what's happening? Yes, dum-dum, you are. You're on a 5-year delay from the rest of us. But, I mean, it's no joke. And Trump's inner circle knows just how dangerous the incessant misinformation from Fox News can be because they all worked there 10 months ago. It is frightening to know that the President of the United States is being briefed on world events by the same source as everyone at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport Chili's took.
Every tweet, every statement, every desperate attempt Trump made to take back control just made things worse. It was like watching someone try to put out a forest fire with a water pistol while the flames were being fed by their own past mistakes. The chaos wasn't just about the attacks anymore. It was about his reactions too. And the audience? They were loving every second of it. The internet exploded. Jimmy's wildest moments went viral instantly, while Newsom's sharp surgical takedowns were getting dissected and praised all over social media. Memes started popping up everywhere, each one capturing the madness, the comedy, and the pure wreckage of it all. People couldn't even decide what was more entertaining: the humor, the brutal honesty, or just the disbelief that Trump somehow kept commanding attention in the middle of this theatrical meltdown. And that's when it really hit. He turned into a living, breathing lesson on spectacle versus substance, a real-time case study in how absurdity and reality can collide in the most explosive way. What made it even more impressive was how both Kimmel and Newsom kept things fresh. Jimmy wasn't recycling old one-liners. His humor was sharp, specific, and built around the sheer audacity of his target. And Newsom's critiques weren't empty political jabs. They were grounded, methodical, and so precise they made even casual viewers rethink what they thought they knew about Trump.
The President of the United States did something unprecedented, and he picked up the phone and he called the governor of Texas and he says, I need 5 seats. And this is unprecedented. Never has the President of the United States ever made a call and told a sitting governor that you need to redistrict to get me 5 seats because I'm quote unquote entitled to them for exactly the reason you just said. Because he knows he's losing. He knows he's unpopular in every single key category, and he's going to lose the midterm elections. So the only way that he can...
This whole thing wasn't just about humiliating Trump, it was about clarity. Jimmy showed just how ridiculous some of his behavior looked when you stripped away the context, while Newsom broke down how dangerous certain decisions really were once you actually examined them. It became this perfect mix of exposure, humor, and insight, where entertainment and analysis crashed together and left everyone watching entertained, informed, and a little horrified at the same time. It's rare to see two people work in such perfect sync without ever planning it, but somehow their combined impact just worked. And through it all, Trump kept trying to play the lead in a story he clearly didn't write, flailing, gesturing, trying to drag the spotlight back to himself, only to keep fueling more jokes and criticism in the process. The reaction online was instant. Comment sections blew up, forums turned into debate arenas, and new content flooded in non-stop. Some people cheering, others in disbelief, but nobody could look away. Jimmy's humor became the go-to symbol for public ridicule, while Newsom's critiques became the new benchmark for accountability. Together, their dual takedown turned into pure cultural currency, shared, remixed, and amplified across every corner of the internet.
Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job.
And Trump? Somehow he's still right at the center of it all. The subject, the spark, and the punchline rolled into one. It's like he's trapped inside the very spectacle he built for himself, with two completely different forces making sure he never gets a moment out of the spotlight. What's left behind is this sharp reminder of how powerful comedy and scrutiny can be, especially when they work separately, but still manage to complement each other perfectly. Jimmy Kimmel and Gavin Newsom each brought their own flavor to the chaos. Jimmy with his sharp, relentless humor, and Newsom with that cool, calculated precision that cuts right to the truth. Together, they created something that was as hilarious as it was revealing. And Trump, ever the unpredictable main character, became the perfect canvas for it all. The world watched, laughing, gasping, cringing, as these two masters, one of comedy and one of accountability, stripped away the showmanship and exposed the absurdity underneath. By the end, the message couldn't have been clearer. Absurdity can't hide from scrutiny. Ego can't outrun humor, and no matter how big the persona, wit and insight will always find a way to break through. Jimmy brought the laughs, Newsom brought the clarity, and Trump, well, he brought the material. Somewhere in that chaotic mix, the world found a spectacle it couldn't look away from, a comedy it couldn't stop sharing, and a lesson in absurdity that's going to stick around long after the headlines fade.
Donald Trump, though, he has a vivid imagination. He has created a dangerous organization to get the old people excited and fired up, a supervillain called
He's a stone-cold liar. I respect the presidency. I've tried to have an open hand with him, tried to work with him. You can't work with Donald Trump. You can only work for him. And I will not, I refuse to work for Donald Trump.
And just when you thought the whole spectacle couldn't get any bigger, the ripple effect started crashing in harder than a Twitter feud during a hurricane. Memes were multiplying like rabbits on caffeine, each one trying to capture that perfect mix of Trump's confusion and the genius of Jimmy and Newsom's back-to-back takedowns. Every clip, every gif, every exaggerated reaction became its own little ecosystem of chaos, feeding this growing idea that Trump wasn't just a political figure anymore. He was a living, breathing canvas for both comedy and critique. It was almost poetic, honestly. One man's ego fueling the creativity of the entire internet. Meanwhile, Trump looked completely lost, bouncing between outrage and disbelief like a guy stuck in a funhouse maze where someone keeps moving the mirrors. And here's the thing. Both Jimmy and Newsom walked away untouched, maybe even stronger. Jimmy, the master of chaos, reminded everyone why comedy hits harder than any speech ever could. And Newsom, calm and razor sharp, proved that accountability still has power when it's used right. Trump, on the other hand, stayed exactly where he always ends up, trapped in the center of a storm he can't predict or control, serving up endless material for everyone else. In the end, it wasn't just about laughs or criticism. It was about that perfect collision of spectacle, humor, and truth, leaving the world entertained, exhausted, and completely hooked on the one man who somehow never seems to run out of chaos.